what is it going to take for you to sell your house if your interest rate is 2.75%? Even if you have, say, a $400,000 house, what's it going to take for you to buy a $600,000 house and move to an interest rate that is, say, 6.5%? I don't know about you, but I mean, we're talking about tripling payments. So no one's selling their houses with mortgages that are 2.75%. Been asking me a lot over the course of the last 2 or 3 weeks, how's the market and how are you doing? But I can tell they're making a funny face when they ask me, that like they have concern on their face.
Yes.
And so as I'm watching the headlines and going through things, well, it's because we're seeing a lot of national concerns. Now, I haven't been feeling that locally. Like, as people are asking me this, like, we had a great first quarter. We, team-wise, at Kenmore team, we were actually up year over year, like 32%. So we've been very busy, and we haven't been quite feeling the effects of that. But you can't use your own personal experience to relate to what's going on in the market. You have
to look at the big picture.
You've got to look at some of the data. And so the reason people are asking that question is because there was a report that was put out in the media and the news, and that was for existing home sales in March. So that's nationally for existing home sales. What does that look like? And month over month, they were actually down almost 6%. And then year over year, compared to the previous year, they were down 2.5%. So everybody's like, thought that we had this huge inventory problem in the country, which we do have. And even locally, we've had lower amount of income. But inventory went up and existing sales went down. And so everybody's like, where are all the buyers? What's going on? And I told you that we were going to talk about tariffs today and some uncertainty in the market. And I think one of the things you're dealing with is, in times of uncertainty like that, people tend to not make big buying decisions. In fact, Redfin National Brokerage put out a survey last month that said 1/4 of 1,000 American adults surveyed said that they were canceling plans to buy a house or a car based on tariffs. That same poll also found that another 32% weren't canceling, but they were putting those purchases on hold for now. So what you have happening, right, is all you hear about in the news is, man, the price of, lumber's going to go up, and the HVAC, the electrical components are going to go up. So does that really make you think, man, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to run out and buy a new construction house. Okay. Like that.
No.
That's not what your brain thinks about. And so it creates some uncertainty. If some people were about to make a decision, they're still on the fence. And so I think what you see happen is you do have people delay some of those buying decisions. So I went into our local market and said, are we trending like the national stats, or are we in a bubble here?
Yeah.
And in this particular case, which has been the case the last couple of years, I was surprised because a lot of it, I was seeing my own internal numbers for the team, who's just crushing it right now. But I was surprised. Our numbers are very, very similar to what's going on nationally. So if you go back and look at March of 24 last year, we had 672 active listings. Right now, this March, we ended with 852 active listings. A lot more inventory to choose from. The difference was, though, that the listings under contract last March in 24 were 327. And listings under contract here now with more inventory was only 280. 280 versus 327. Like, if we look at this from a percentage basis, like our listings under contract were trending 14% down year over year.
And that's hesitation.
And that's, I believe, a lot of that is uncertainty in the market, because surely we have choices. We have builders out there that are holding rates right now because they have some pre-done contracts and they're using up some old supply that they've already contracted on. So I really feel like you're in this section where you can get some deals that are still available out there before the tariff pricing actually hits the home. Mm-hmm. But people aren't choosing to make that decision in a lot of those cases. When you look at the overall numbers again for sold, 24, we had 279 close in March, and we only had 259 close this March. So our numbers are mirroring almost exactly what we're seeing as the trend nationally. So the next question I get from everybody is, if I have to sell, Lance, what do we do about that? Or if I am looking to buy, why would I make that decision among this uncertainty? What is it going to take for you to sell your house if your interest rate is 2.75%? Your existing home, you have an interest rate that's 2.75%, and you need some sort of financing.
Okay.
And even if you have, say, a $400,000 house and you're at 2.75, what's it going to take for you to buy a $600,000 house and move to an interest rate that is, say, 6.5%? Like, are you going to, it's going to have to be something pretty big, right? Like, you're either out of room, you're injured and can't, like, I mean, I don't know about you, but like, I mean, we're talking about tripling payments. So no one's selling their houses with mortgages that are 2.75%. Like, I'm in the industry and I'm just like you. Like, I'm not going to make that choice, right? If it has financing involved. And so what happened last year is there was a ton of new construction.
Yes.
Because if people wanted a house to buy, they would have to look at new construction because we had less existing homes out there, which is fine. And the builders were surging and doing good again. And then all of a sudden, the builders are like, oh my gosh, it's going to cost, on average, I've read 20 different articles, and they say, you know, by the end of this year, naturally, it's going to cost between 6 to 9% more to build a house.
Yeah.
So now the builders, well, they're worried about throwing a ton of inventory out there. We saw last week, I think D.R. Horton, national home builder, and they have a presence here in Tri-Cities, came out and they revised their expectations way down. And those guys are pretty smart. Like, they're smarter than me. They're building homes all over the United States. So, you know, when I see things like that happen, you know, this is the perfect storm that came up and brought this to. And so we're in this weird flux right now where there's not going to be enough new construction and they don't know what to do about that. And the existing homes are only coming on the market if it's a major decision like death in the family or moving for job relocation. Mm-hmm. That's the, you know, one of the only times we're seeing some of those existing homes actually show up and come on market. So I will tell people out there, because of that, when you find a resale home that you do like, snatch it up, because it's going to be difficult to find something else like that. And I really think your new construction options 6 months from now are going to be more. There's not any data. I haven't read a single article saying that they think new construction houses are going to be less in 6 months from now. It's just,
especially in Washington State.
Yeah, it's just, oh, John, that's another show. That's your afternoon show. I just heard an hour-long show in the inflection of your voice over there. But yes it's not going to be cheaper. So what if I am one of those sales, Lance, where we do need to sell? Well, the good news that I hinted at is that you're going to have less competition in some of that range, because we're still at an inventory level where we're looking at, we haven't hit that critical 6-month supply of homes, you know, even based upon those numbers, to where it's a very, what I call, balanced market. It still is a little bit tips in the favor of the sellers based upon inventory numbers. But one of the things you are going to have to do, and this is always number one, as I tell people, you're going to just have to keep that close eye on pricing. Comps.
Yeah.
And that's always a difficult conversation. And people, you know, like to say, well, you know, they're the favorite line that I hear is, well, there are no comps for my property. That's always one that comes out. Well, I have to tell you, there is always a comp for your property.
Yes.
And it might not look exactly how you want it to look at, but my job is to find it and show it to you and change that perspective a little bit, because a buyer will have additional choices. It's very, very rare where they won't have. If it's an investment, they can have another investment vehicle that they could put that money to work in. If it's a 4-bedroom, there's a 3-bedroom that they could probably do an addition on. So if there truly is no direct comp, by meaning it doesn't have the same beds or the same baths, we're going to have to expand what that means and look at what's the next best thing that could be modified, or maybe go a little bit farther out. Maybe instead of a 4-minute commute, we go to a 10-minute commute and look at a different neighborhood. So comps are huge in this market. The other thing that I've seen become an issue is condition. We talked about the yards and what that looks like. Because on your existing home sales, your condition is going to be compared to new construction. Mm-hmm. It's very, very common that that's the alternative. Somebody will say, why don't you show me some existing homes? And they'll look at 4, and if they're disgustingly dirty, what they always say to me is, can you show me a new construction? I just don't want to deal with someone else's mess.
Yes.
And so then we'll go look at new construction. They're like, this is beautiful, but at the same time, it doesn't have appliances, and it doesn't have blinds, and it doesn't have a block wall fence put in. Those dirty houses I showed you, in your words, had all of that. So what happens if one of those 4 dirty houses cleans it, details it like you would if you were selling a car, has it set up perfectly? Now what happens when I show them those 4 houses, John?
More likely to get it.
Yeah, and they see the clean one and they buy it.
Yes.
Like they'll be like, oh my gosh, this is the cleanest one I've seen out of all of them. And so you can compete in that arena, but condition just becomes a big issue. And so,
well, it's just like with a car. You're not going to buy a car with, peanut shells and wrappers on the seat and stains in the back from where they spilled their mochas. You're going to buy the clean car.
I had the craziest experience a couple weeks ago. Some friends of mine traded a car in, but they didn't have this key that they needed. They were from out of town. They came down from Wenatchee.
Fob.
Well, no, it was for their bike rack. Like, it had a lock on it, like a pin lock.
Yeah.
And so they called me and they're like, hey, Lance, if we mail this to you, can you go get the bike rack for me? But the dealer took the car in trade. But where he parked it was in this fenced area. So I show up with the lock and I said, hey, I need to get my friend's bike rack. And they're like, oh, it's parked 2 blocks over in this fenced lot. And I went and got it in there. And the cars that get traded in, these were all prior to them being detailed. It looked like a salvage yard back there. These things look terrible. And so I was like, oh man, this is how everything looks before they clean it up and shine it and put it back on. I mean, it really it hit me man, all these cars look awful, but it was just, they might not have necessarily, they were just dirty, right?
Yeah.
And not detailed and not what the rest of the lot looks like. Housing is very much the same situation. So those are some of the things we're talking to our clients about. It's an interesting market where you have to pay attention to some of this data that's going on. You've got to look at your neighborhood picture, your city picture, and your bigger market picture. If you have any questions about what that means in the spring market, and you're thinking about going and putting your home on the market in the next couple weeks or the next couple months, go to kenmoreteam.com, shoot us a message, and we would love to help you do that. And we will be right back here next week.